Today, as we begin this video, typically we would be in the auditorium at the beginning of an athletic season talking about that upcoming season and all the things that you, as our parents, our student athletes, and our community can expect of the upcoming sports season. Obviously, in these changing times, we're doing this through video, and there'll be some important topics that we will discuss here today. And then you will also have individual team meetings in which your coaches will discuss more specific information regarding their athletic team. First and foremost, my name is Mike Girizzi. I'm the Director of Physical Education and Athletics here at the Hilton Central School District. Some important personnel of people that you'll see or hear from. Ms. Tara Marino is our athletic coordinator. You'll see Coach Marino at and around athletic events as she does many of the behind-the-scenes things that needed to be accomplished within our athletic program. Obviously, a special shout out and thank you goes to Mrs. Garno. Mrs. Garno is an important part of our athletic program as what she does positively impacts our kids, our coaches, and our community at large. Tonight, what we're going to discuss, a primary information that I never thought we would have to talk through, which will be a core of my message here today, has to do with our fall 2020 season, the COVID-19 and the pandemic, and us dealing with what the new norm is in interscholastic athletics, education-based athletics. So my primary message today will really be involved around COVID-19 and the guidance in which we have moving forward for this athletic season. We will still discuss some of those important aspects regarding the athletic experience that your kids will have, dealing with our athletic handbook, our code of conduct, our scheduling system, how we schedule our athletic events, and down to our athletic Twitter account and how we communicate. So that will be the messages for tonight that we will discuss as we go through. First, we're going to discuss the fall 2020 season as it pertains to COVID-19, this pandemic, the new norm. So there was a sports decision-making process. I think everyone is well aware that on March 13th, which was a Friday, and then on March 14th, when schools were shut down, we were a week into our spring season. Through the entire shutdown and the loss of a spring season, through this summer, and now returning to school, many of which in a hybrid manner or fully remote, it was unknown what interscholastics would look like, or even if we'd have the opportunity to have them this fall. And through that sports season decision-making process, it was really many things that played into it. First and foremost, there was guidance and recommendations that were needed from Governor Cuomo's office, along with the Department of Health. Once we understood whether or not we'd be able to have sports, that information was important. There's also guidance and recommendations from the New York State Public High School Athletic Association, NISFA, and they'll make guidance and recommendations for each of its member schools throughout New York State. We then, as the Monroe County Public School Athletic Conference, would take that guidance and, along with our superintendents, make some decisions and recommendations that we would utilize in our home schools. And then finally, we as the Hilton Central School District took all of that information from those three bodies and was able to put a specific plan in place of how we would be able to implement interscholastic athletics for our student athletes in an education-based setting. That being said, I think everyone is probably as well aware that on August 24th, Governor Cuomo provided information during his daily press briefing. And that information was that low and moderate risk sports, and for us specifically, that would be cross country, field hockey, boys and girls soccer, girls swimming and diving, and girls tennis, could begin September 21st. Now, there were many questions. Why weren't other sports, i.e. boys swimming or baseball, softball, put into that information? That guidance was about this fall season. Currently, there is a plan in place for winter sports and spring sports, but the focus was on typically sports that were offered in the fall. When he stated that low and moderate risk sports could happen this fall, within that guidance also stated that high-risk sports would not be allowed to compete in competitions for the foreseeable future, which included the fall. Now, with us, that has to do with our fall competitive cheer teams, our football teams, and our girls volleyball teams. So with that guidance, we knew that they could do some things and train, but they potentially would not have the opportunity to compete in sports. Now, there's much confusion about where the low, moderate, and high risk determination comes into play. That's actually off of the Department of Health. So the guidance from the Department of Health, which is also a key group that we work off of, has labeled specific sports as low, moderate, and high. And they use whatever criteria that they utilize to determine that. So we got the governor's guidance, we got guidance and recommendations from the Department of Health. So then the New York State Public High School, after that date, they had their COVID task force that they've been working with all summer, came together, and they developed a return to interscholastic athletics document. Now, this document was released on September 4th. So New York State Public High School, which again is our guiding body at the state level, created this document to help give recommendations to what and how schools can implement those low and moderate risk sports. This document provided guidance for all sections, leagues, and districts for a successful return to fall athletics. Within this recommendation, though, the New York State Public High School Athletic Association, or NISFA, decided to move the sports season for football, boys and girls volleyball, and fall cheerleading to March 1st, 2021. So rather than take the chance that those sports would not be able to compete in athletic events in October or November, they chose to move that to what is now termed as a Fall 2 season beginning on March 1st. So unfortunately, we will not offer those three sports, girls volleyball, cheerleading, and football, this fall season, but our hope and intent is to offer those athletic opportunities beginning March 1st in what has been determined as Fall 2 season. So NISFA approved girls soccer, boys soccer, girls swimming and diving, girls tennis, field hockey, and boys and girls cross country to begin regular practices on Monday, September 21st. So then we take the guidance from the New York State Public High School Athletic Association, and by we, that is the Monroe County Public School Athletic Conference. So the Monroe County superintendents, with the recommendation from the athletic directors from the 23 member schools of the league, agreed to allow fall varsity and JV sports of the ones above that were approved of low or moderate risk activities to begin on Monday, September 28th. That is this past Monday. School districts were allowed to make their own decisions whether they offered fall modified sports. The following sports, as stated above, will begin on Monday, September 28th. Boys and girls soccer, boys and girls cross country, girls swimming and diving, girls tennis, and field hockey, all at the varsity or JV level. So with the modified season, that recommendation that schools can make their own decisions, the Hilton Central School District, along with many other Monroe Public School Athletic Conference schools, decided to offer modified sports beginning October 5th. That is Monday, October 5th. And we here in Hilton are offering modified A and modified B girls soccer. Historically, we have one modified A team and two modified B teams. We will offer modified B boys soccer and modified A boys soccer. We will offer modified co-ed cross country for our 7th and 8th grade runners, and modified A girls tennis, which will make any 7th, 8th, or 9th grade girl eligible to compete. We will offer those sports here at the Hilton Central School District, and they will begin on Monday, October 5th. So you may ask yourself, what will the varsity and JV season look like in the middle of a pandemic? Well, as far as contests go, what you'll see is soccer and field hockey will have 10 regular season games. Now, historically, they have 16. They will have 10 regular season games, which will be their Division I opponents, 5 home and 5 away. This season will culminate on Monday, November 7th, and they then will have sectionals. At this point in time, it is uncertain what sectionals will look like, but it'll be potentially a 2-week sectional season. Girls tennis will have anywhere up to 11 tennis matches that will also be followed by sectionals. And again, with those tennis matches, obviously with Western New York weather in October, our goal will be to get in as many matches as we possibly can, but we have up to 11 that are scheduled. Girls swimming and diving will have minimally 5 regular season swim meets that will occur on most Saturdays, and they will be against their divisional opponents, and they also will be followed by sectionals. And boys and girls cross country, those of you that are parents or student athletes in cross country, it will look very much different, as most of our sports will, but they will run basically on Saturdays versus one school in a dual cross country meet. And we will have both varsity and JV heats within that. So there'll actually be 2 heats for boys, 2 heats for girls, as we will run on those Saturdays versus one team. And they, again, will be followed up by sectionals. As stated earlier, the regular season culminates on November 7th, and then the sectional season will begin. Each sport is still determining exactly what that sectional season will look like, and there'll be more information that will be out as we move forward through the fall. You again might ask yourself, what does a modified season look like in a pandemic? Now, typically, in modified, if it's boys and girls soccer, they're playing 12 contests against schools across Monroe County. In cross country, they typically have 6 to 7 cross country meets. Modified A girls tennis might have 10 to 11 tennis matches. What you'll see is I'm sort of calling it a modified season. They will begin on the 5th. They will begin with practices. Our goal will be to have, for boys and girls soccer, between 4 and 6 contests. Our goal will be to play those contests on LeBeau Field, and I'll explain that why, because of some of the parameters of what we'll need to do to run events. Our cross-country team, our goal is to have 2 to 3 mini cross-country meets in the same manner of which varsity and JV will look like, in a dual manner. Girls Mod A tennis will have between 3 and 5 tennis matches. So pretty much the kids will practice for 3 weeks, and then for the next 2.5 weeks, they will have some athletic competitions. The season will begin October 5th and culminate Monday or Tuesday, November 10th or 11th. So that's what the actual competitions could and would look like. Now, we will all be in this together. What you'll hear and see much about is our COVID-19 guidelines that must be followed. Our varsity JV athletes who began practicing on Monday the 28th, they are already getting a picture of the expectations for them, for our coaches, and for all that are involved with interscholastic athletics. There's some general considerations that we all need to make sure that we adhere to. 1, we need the families to make sure that we emphasize to all of our participants the importance of washing hands or using hand sanitizer before, during, and after competitions. You will notice that in all of our school settings, we have sanitizers that are scattered throughout the field, courts, and or pool. We have extra disposable masks readily available, as mask wearing is mandated. We will also clean and disinfect frequently touched surfaces and equipment, which includes equipment utilized for activities such as soccer balls. Probably the hardest part for our student athletes and our coaches: no hugging, high fives, shaking hands, or fist bumps. No physical contact. We understand how much pride our kids and coaches and community takes about being a Hilton cadet, and that could be one of the toughest things, to be able to be together yet still stay distanced apart and compete in interscholastic athletics. Some of the other guidelines that I'm certain you've heard of: mask wearing. All right, and I'll actually read the guidance document from the Department of Health that we utilize for sport and recreation. Responsible parties must ensure a distance of at least 6 feet is maintained among individuals at all times, whether indoor or outdoor, unless safety or the core activity, i.e. practicing and or playing, requires a shorter distance. As I understand, you're well aware that in most of our sports, to be able to compete and play the sport, you'll be shorter than 6 feet distance. If a shorter distance is required, individuals must wear acceptable face coverings, unless players are unable to tolerate a face covering for that physical activity. I.e., if you're in a highly rigorous drill or you're in the middle of gameplay and that athlete feels they cannot tolerate that mask, they will communicate that with our coaches. Our coaches will be wearing masks at all times. But understand that the goal is to keep everyone involved with our interscholastic athletic event safe. And so mask wearing is mandated unless not tolerated. And like stated, you will notice that coaches, trainers, and other individuals, such as officials, that are not directly engaged in physical activity will be required to wear those face masks. We also want to make sure that the guidelines of social distancing should be maintained during national anthems and sidelines. So anytime not in that competition, we will ensure that distancing is maintained. You will notice that in outdoor events, we'll have extended bench areas to permit social distancing. Indoor sports, i.e. swimming, which is our lone indoor sport, will have 50% capacity in their bleachers with social distancing and masking. And the seating will ensure that that makes it happen. We ask you to make sure that our student athletes have a hydration plan. That could be bringing their own water bottles. That could be the ability to maintain and have the ability to provide water to the student athletes and coaches in a safe manner. So we will provide systems to be able to do that. Some other guidelines from COVID-19. Practice and competition sites, and this is a little bit different. Only essential personnel will be permitted on practice competition sites as authorized. That's during practices and or games. Essential personnel is defined as athletes, coaches, medical personnel, athletic trainers, and officials. So you will notice different. We typically have an outstanding support group where we have our parent photographers, and oftentimes they have their sideline pass. Unfortunately, they will not be deemed as essential personnel and will not be able to be inside the area of the athletic competition. So when that is LeBeau Field, they will not be able to be on the track. They will not be able to be inside the fence. If that's the tennis courts, not inside the fence. If that's the swimming pool, not on the deck with that essential personnel. For personal items, it's recommended that each athlete brings their own bag for personal items. All should remain in the bag. Bags should be placed in a predetermined area, 6 feet apart for the duration of practice and games. So we will work to ensure that everything is spaced out so when the kids need to grab their belongings, they will remain in a distance manner. Some other COVID-19 guidelines. And when we talk about a family's role in maintaining the sidelines, I can't emphasize enough how we are all in this together. Our coaches, our athletes, you as parents and supporters of our athletic program, our school district, our administration of the athletic events, we are all going to need to be together and work together to ensure success. So within that, please understand through the Department of Health guidance document, all spectators at athletic events must maintain 6 feet of physical distance between individuals and or family household units at all times. And All spectators must wear face coverings when they are in those areas. Please, please, we must be together. So as we are scattered at LeBeau Field, or we are around the tennis courts watching, or we're down at Parma Park or at Merton Williams in the pool, we need to ensure that we have our face coverings on, that we are distanced and able to be there as spectators. Also, and I'm certain you've heard this as we've already communicated, along with that, the guidance states for sports and recreation that responsible parties must limit spectators to no more than 2 spectators per player. I know that seems harsh, but it is about health and safety and physical distancing. So here is what you will see. Each student athlete will have a spectator pass. They will actually have 2 spectator passes. They will bring them home, and then whichever family member or could be a neighbor plans to come and support that athlete, those 2 passes will be utilized to enter the athletic arena. You will notice at each of our athletic arena we will have sign-in sheets with chaperones that will be taking those passes per each spectator. Again, the goal is to give our kids interscholastic athletic opportunities in as safe a manner as we possibly can. And through the Department of Health's guidance document, we are mandated to allow 2 spectators per athlete. We ask that you please adhere to that, as hard as it might be. We also plan, with our partnership with Varsity Media, we will be live streaming many of our athletic events that are able to. So what you will notice is for boys and girls soccer, field hockey, each and every game or event will be live streamed, and you'll have the opportunity to watch them play from home. It's not the same as being there, but you will have the opportunity. Our swim meets will be live streamed, and we will still take the opportunity to communicate information regarding our cross country and tennis teams. But unfortunately, due to the nature of those sports, they will be very challenging to live stream them. Along those measures, it's important to note, our only indoor sporting event that will be offered this fall is swimming and diving. And due to the recommendation of the following, the live streaming is important. The 2 spectator piece will only be for home teams. Away spectators will not be allowed to go to the event to watch the swim meet. The rationale is, along with the 2 spectator limit, we actually have the regulation of 50% capacity. And unfortunately, the nature of our swimming venues does not allow us to go past that. So for Hilton specific, our 3 home meets will be 2 spectators per. Our 2 away meets will be live streamed for you to be able to watch through video. Again, it's not the way we want it. Student athletes in general won't be able to come and support their friends, but it will give us the opportunity to have an athletics season, and it will allow us to have our student athletes out there competing, wearing that Hilton or Cadet on their chest and representing our school and community at large. Our primary goal is to have their athletic season and give them the opportunity to compete. And as stringent as these guidelines and regulations may seem, they give us the greatest opportunity for success and a full season. As we work through the COVID-19 pandemic, I've stressed many times throughout this presentation that we must be together. We must be as one, and we must make sure that we represent the Cadet Nation in a positive manner. Our goal, again, is to have an athletic season this fall that will begin with competitions on Friday, October 9th for varsity JV field hockey, and for the next 5 weeks at the varsity and JV level. It will begin on October 23rd or 24th with competitions for our modified teams in which they will play contests for the following 2.5 weeks. And hopefully it'll culminate right before Thanksgiving or after Thanksgiving with some sectional finals and maybe a block or two. Again, our goal is to have an athletic season and to ensure that we do it in a safe way, and we adhere to the Department of Health guidelines, and we all work together. So COVID-19 will take up much of what we do this fall. Typically we discuss the general things that we need to remember as student athletes and as a community at large. I'm going to briefly get into those, but I'm going to really encourage you as parents and student athletes to utilize our website. You can go to our webpage, which is hyperlink is in the presentation, and utilize some important documents. One, we talk about eligibility. We take great pride in the student athletes that we have representing the Hilton Central School District. And you all know that we have an academic policy even through these trying times. Well, the way the school year ended, there will not be any student athlete on probation or ineligible to begin with, but we'll be looking at those 5-week reports that will be in the middle of October, in which every student will have to be passing all their classes, in which our academic policy will come into play. If a student is failing one class, they will go on probation, which means they can practice and or play, but we will begin to monitor their grades. If they have 2 or 3 failures at the 5-week point, they will be ineligible for competitions, and we will communicate that specific process and plan with those student athletes. Again, our goal is that we take care of academics. Obviously, in the hybrid model, or if you are fully remote, we hope that you are engaging in your classrooms, you are working with your teachers, you are taking the due diligence and the effort and the determination to perform academically in the classroom as much as you do on the athletic field. Some other documentation on our website, and we encourage you to go, is our communication, our code of conduct. We talk about our communication path. Even more so this fall, it really begins and ends between the student athlete and the coach, ensuring that they have open lines of communication, focused on all of the guidance and the everyday aspects of what we need to do, followed by the expectations of being a student athlete, also the communication of what a student's role and responsibilities are on a team. But really that communication begins and ends with the student athletes. If you as community members, as parents, have questions, I encourage you, after your son or daughter communicates with the coach, that you go out to the coach with those questions. If you still need further information, absolutely feel free to contact my office. And if that does not suffice, you would then go to our Assistant Superintendent of Human Resources, my boss, Mr. Scott Massey. So there are those documentations, but again, as we all work through this sort of fall, as I'm in my 29th year in education, I quite honestly never envisioned being in this type of a situation. But I know that we will do it, and we will do it together, and we will create success as one. But if you ever need information, you have questions, absolutely feel free to reach out to me at the attached information. Last, some other things, just first with scheduling. sectionvnewyork.org. As we work through our schedule process, all of the schedules will be live and on there. So if you need to access, and you can look at the document on the slide, and that can help you get set up through our school, which is what the name of the system is. And you'll have access to your son or daughter's schedule with MapQuest and the ability to get there. We also, I think all of you know, we utilize our athletic Twitter account. And we do it in many ways. We do it to promote our athletic program. We do it to hopefully model proper use of technology for it. But I encourage, if you do not follow us, please follow us. Along with the live streaming, we will oftentimes be live tweeting out As goals are scored, as tennis matches are won, as swim events are won, we'll be tweeting that information out. So we encourage you, if you do not follow us, to please follow us. In closing, there was a lot of information that we went through here today. Our goal is to provide you with ongoing communication and information regarding our athletic program, but specific to some of the guidelines and regulations from COVID-19. We discussed tonight many of the guidelines, but the specific actions of how we will work to ensure that they occur will be communicated ongoing as we move throughout this fall season. At this time, I'd like to thank you for what you do as cadets, and we are so excited to see you out there on the athletic field competing. Remember, we will all need to work together to ensure a safe, successful season for our student athletes. We all must adhere to the Department of Health and New York State Public High School Athletic Association guidance to make sure that this happens. Together, we win. Go Cadets.